about the time we faced.
All right. Well, as I remember.
At Avenger headquarters.
Because united, the Avengers are strong.
Welcome to the Marvel D&T Evolution podcast with myself, Andy Stead.
And I'm Jarian Gibson.
And I'm Alex Stroud.
And we have once again brought back Monte Harry for this first episode of Season 2 and 2022. How are we doing, Monte?
Wonderful. Pleasure to be here as always, gents. Thank you.
We love having you on, mate. We love having you on. You're like our special guest host. So,
Nice.
So it's great to have you back on, especially for this first one of 2022. Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah. Jarian, did you have a good holidays and New Year?
Yeah, good holidays, good New Year. Back to the grind on Thursday. So short week last week, but full week coming up this week.
Nice. Alex, how about yours? Was yours all good?
Yeah, pretty good. I got a little bit sick, but I'm recovering now, so
Was it sick of Christmas food and drink, or was it sick?
No, but I was a little bit sick of that too, if we're being honest.
It's just
We
too
all
much, isn't it? It's just too much.
Absolutely.
You spend 2 weeks just eating, drinking. It's like, I can't do this anymore. But
Or
how
1
was
month.
yours? How was a month? Yeah, you start on December 1st and go all the way through to the 31st. How was yours, Monty? All right.
Wonderful. Yeah, we ended up getting sick ourselves right around Christmas time, so that sucked. But then we bounced back within a week, and then everything was great. New Year's was fantastic. Had an awesome time. So yeah, just ready to get the year going.
Superb. Just before we get started on our subject matter for today, introducing the second season, I guess, or the second year. You know, we sort of finished up 2021. Thank you very much, Money, for the round of applause.
Round of applause.
You know what? So I'm in a few sort of groups to do with podcasts and things like that. And the key that a lot of people talk about isn't advertising. It isn't guests. No offense, Money. It isn't guests. It isn't even really subject matter or length of the episode or anything like that. It's consistency. It's turning up and recording every week. And I'm pretty pleased that we've managed to do that, haven't we, guys? We've managed to turn up every week pretty much and record. It might be a day or so out, but we've managed to keep that consistency. So hopefully we can keep that going for 2022.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so we thought we'd kick off 2022 with something slightly different, something we haven't actually done yet, not in this kind of detail. But we're going to talk about a comic story arc, or run, if you will, and we thought that, you know, there's loads that we could have chose from, loads of really good big crossover events spanning the last sort of 40 or 50 years, but one that's A, very good, B, it's relevant for what's coming up in the MCU, and C, it's just a really great thing to talk about. I think there's a lot of elements to the story that we can get stuck into. So, and that being Secret Invasion. So if you haven't read Secret Invasion, you guys listening, it's a story arc from 2008, written by the great Brian Michael Bendis. Wrote lots of great stories for Marvel over the years. It's set between Civil War and the Registration Act and the sort of dark reign where Norman Osborn took over and the Thunderbolts came in, and which led into Siege, etc. But it's set in that kind of disassembled phase, and I use that term very intentionally because I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Right. But it's set in that phase. So and as we know, hopefully, is it this year, Jarian? I think it is.
Yep.
Pegged for this year, isn't it? For the Disney Plus limited series, Secret Invasion. We're looking to see that this year. So we thought it would be a great time to come on and not break it down or analyze it, but just to chat about it. Just four guys chatting about it and seeing what we think. So, I mean, I've read it probably 4 times now, like the main arc. The last time being last weekend as a bit of research for this. So Yeah, I think we've kind of all done it, haven't we?
Mhm.
All done it over the last week or so. But I'll tell you what, this is my interesting fact, and this is why I use that word dissembled. So Brian Michael Bendis wrote the Avengers Disassembled story arc as well, right? And he left little tidbits in that story and other stories that he wrote around the time, and other stories that were written not just by him for Secret Invasion. If you go to the Kree, there's a big Kree battle in Avengers Disassembled, just towards the beginning, I think, of the Avengers Disassembled storyline. There is actually a Skrull in that battle. He's drawn in that battle, and I didn't know that until last week, and I found it out. And I went back, I got the book, and I was like flicking through. I was like, "Where is this? Where is this Skrull?" And you can find him. So if you find the Kree battle where they're fighting the Kree in Avengers Disassembled, there is a rogue Skrull, and that's kind of just a little clue as to what's or what was about to happen in his next big story, which was obviously Secret Invasion. But obviously there was other little tidbits left in other stories as well. So I mean, I don't know where we want to start, guys. As always, we don't script these things.
Yeah.
So Monty, I know you've done your research.
Yeah,
I know everybody has, but we brought you on for a reason. So
Yeah,
give us your initial thoughts.
So, when it comes to Secret Invasion, what really stands out to me is just the it's kind of like a political, spy type thriller story, especially in the very beginning part, because you have all these moving parts, all these, various elements, happening, and you don't know, who's a Skrull and who's not, right? So that to me that really highlights, if we're going to start at the beginning, that for me, that is the complete undercurrent of the beginning that really makes this an interesting story and really hooks you right in the beginning. Because the first thing you see, you open up with Elektra's body. Elektra, who, as we know, is from, Daredevil and is a, fairly prominent member of the Marvel comic book universe. So, the Avengers essentially went to Japan on a mission, and in that mission, or in the course of that, Elektra was killed, and then she was revealed to turn green and become a Skrull, right? So that now prompted Tony Stark to get the smartest guys he knows in the room. You have Reed Richards, and then you also have Hank Pym, and now they have this huge whopper of a problem that just landed on their lap. Someone has replaced the superhero. Other people are definitely being replaced, or have been replaced, or are going to be replaced. What's going on?
Because it was all under the radar, weren't it? They were all concerned about how
exactly
she didn't flag up on anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's where it's going to be interesting how Marvel does this, especially coming out in 2022, because there's a lot of pieces that either Marvel Studios does not have access to, along with they haven't introduced yet as well. So if you look at the comic book run, it's a massive battle, and there's pretty much everyone in the kitchen sink thrown into this battle. And you mentioned Norman Osborn, where he comes out at the end, shining, which leads into, Dark Reign and Thunderbolts and that kind of stuff. So I don't think we're going to see any of that in Secret Invasion on Disney Plus. I think it's going to be more similar to Earth's Mightiest Heroes, because if you watch season 2, there's a handful of episodes, that lead into Secret Invasion on there. And if you look at that roster and cast, the way they do it, I think it's going to be more closer to
it's closer to who's active in our MCU versus
exactly.
comics.
Because if you think about it, and I don't know if I'm skipping ahead here, but I took some notes here, just kind of doing some accounting here. So in the comics, we had Fantastic Four, not in the MCU yet. We had X-Men, mainly Wolverine. We have the Savage Land, not in the MCU yet. Who else? We have, Quake, Doom, Abigail Brand, Marvel Boy, Thunderbolts, Osborn. You mentioned Elektra. We have all the heroes from Netflix in here as well. The only one so far is Daredevil, who I don't think had a big role in this at all.
No,
but, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, Punisher, they all had big roles in this.
Right.
Then you had teams like Secret Warriors, Young Avengers, The Initiative, The Hood. Like I said, everyone, it was a massive battle in the comic book. And I think it's going to be closer to... And then we have our dead heroes too, right? So Rogers is dead, presumably dead. Tony Stark is dead. Natasha Romanoff is dead. T'Challa is not in the MCU right now because of that whole situation. Marvel is dead, right? So where is the MCU gonna go with this? And then you have things like people who are MIA, right? Spider-Man, we don't know his status with Marvel right now. I know Sony has one more lend back to Marvel Studios for Spider-Man, so will he be in here? Shield is pretty much done since Winter Soldier in in the MCU. Thor's off world. Captain Marvel we know is off world from the end of Shang-Chi. Venom went back to his universe. Vision is White Vision now. We haven't seen again since WandaVision. So it's then you have the questionables, right? Mockingbird, who we think is who Agent 19,
Hawkeye's
who
wife.
is Hawkeye's wife. Yeah, Laura Barton. But could she be a Skrull now or not? Sword's in a questionable state after WandaVision. Stature, Cassie Lang is still pretty young and hasn't become Stature yet in the MCU. Again, Vision's gone. The Watcher has only been in What If. So what's going on here? But if you think about it, they have been laying the seeds of this since Captain Marvel, the first movie. We have Skrulls in that movie. We have the Skrull, Kree War, What If. I'm sorry, not What If. Loki talked about the Skrull Kree War as well. So they have been laying the seeds of this. So it's going to be interesting who they're going to lay the seeds of this with as well. We don't have Elektra yet, but they have access to her now. But in Earth's Mightiest Heroes, it was Viper in place of Elektra, and Viper lived, I believe. So they could use Viper because they own all the X-Men stuff now, and she was in the Wolverine. So it's weird how they're going to go, and I don't think the main antagonist in the MCU is going to be Jessica Drew's Spider-Woman because, again, Sony has rights to her. Sony is making a movie, I think, who's going to be helmed by Olivia, what's her name? Olivia Wilde. I believe she's going to be at the helm of the Spider-Woman movie. So are they? To me, we have Mockingbird. Mockingbird in the comics and in the cartoons both does some trickery there. So does Hawkeye lay some seeds for that? Is all I'm thinking. It's gonna be interesting how they play this out in Marvel and the MCU.
So you dropped a lot there, and that was definitely a lot of things, a lot of concerns I had as well. I think Marvel's gonna take this opportunity to give Nick Fury his due. So I think that this is going to be very much about Nick Fury, his craft, and this is what I'm hoping too. So, take that with a grain of salt. But, I think because it's all comes down to Nick Fury. All these big events, he's always the guy who figures out first, goes into hiding, starts making battle plans. Like when Age of Ultron happened in the comic books, was the first guy that they find safe, holed up in a bunker, Nick Fury, right? Because he knew he sees it coming. He just always is the first to know, and that's his job. So I think we're going to see I hope we see that Samuel L. Jackson, Nick Fury get fleshed out to really be that capable, crafty, guy who can navigate in the trenches, slick, super spy, the spy. He's not a spy, he's the spy, and that was what Tony Stark said about him. So I think we're going to see that. With respect to Spider-Woman, Jessica Drew, I just thought about that. I don't think, I agree with you. I don't think that character will be fleshed out fast enough. But we do have Emilia Clarke on the cast confirmed. So I do think that it's a no-brainer for her to be Queen or Princess Varank, Queen Varank.
Well, do you think
the character who Jessica Drew is who the Skrull who is playing Jessica Drew? I think that character's in it, but maybe she plays someone else.
I think the Queen Varank is probably going to be Olivia Colman. I think just from some of the things out there. I think Emilia Clarke might be Abigail Brand, just from some of the descriptions out there about a super spy that's cunning and undercover with some powers. I think, I don't think Abigail Brand had any powers, but she was a super spy. She was on a sword.
She's a mutant. She's a mutant who can speak any language.
Oh, that's right. That was her power.
That's right. Yeah.
So,
she speaks Skrull.
She speaks Skrull and Kree, or she talks about her Kree, and then she speaks Skrull, and that was a great part.
So I wouldn't be surprised if Emilia Clarke is Abigail Brand in this.
Yeah.
One of the I was just going to say, one of the things that really bothers me about this, though, is, so you have the Skrulls in the comics, like in Secret Invasion, they've conquered like 12 worlds, okay? They talk about that, they have this massive Skrull empire. And it doesn't seem like there's this massive Skrull empire in the MCU. It seems like it's very fragmented.
Yep.
You know,
Right.
it's very like broken up, and I don't know if that's going to play into Secret Invasion, because I personally feel like Nick Fury is going to take more of like a Norman Osborn role in this. Like this is going to be kind of, because like Samuel L. Jackson's getting kind of old. So this might be like kind of like ending his story a little bit, where he goes out like in a blaze of glory, like pulling like a Norman Osborn, you know, like stepping down, maybe like Maria Hill stepping up. I mean, they have that nice little callback in the movies about life model decoys, and they talk about them in you know, Secret Invasion as well.
Which also
Yeah,
was a
they
big
do.
deal, in there, and that's why I think this might be Maria Hill's passing of the torch from Fury to Hill, because
Yeah.
in the comics and in the cartoon, she was kind of the Nick Fury was still behind the scenes, but Maria Hill was really the one out there, especially in the cartoons, who had the life model decoy. Who, well, in the comics, she life model decoy. In the cartoons, she was more undercover, was doing the work, and kind of went to Fury and found Fury, and she was still ahead of Shield that time. So
at this point, Tony Stark is the head of Shield, which is the holdover or the continuance from the post Civil War landscape that we're in right now. You guys talked about that before. So now with his number 2 is Maria Hill. So it's not a big step for her to just assume and be the number 1 head of Shield. So I think you're spot on with her, getting the torch passed. And also don't forget about Sword, because Sword has rose to prominence in the MCU right now, and Sword is a very big part of what happens. I mean, Abigail Brand, that character, super important to the story. She's in charge of Sword, for lack of a better word. And then we just saw Sword happen to come to us in WandaVision. So now we know that they're definitely going to be a part. They're probably going to reassume that Shield role, since Shield has been essentially disbanded.
I want to go back to what Alex said too about he's spot on. There's no prominence yet. The main thing we saw of Skrulls was in Captain Marvel, and then the end credit scene of Homecoming. Or I'm sorry, Far From Home. That they're out in space and that kind of stuff. Maybe that's where Nick Fury was Sword. Maybe that was Sword that we saw at the end of Far From Home. But to Alex's thing though is that yes, we don't have that huge Skrull empire, but after the whole thing with them being hunted down, there was a comment that was said in Earth's Mightiest Heroes where they called that faction of Skrulls extremists, terrorists, that kind of stuff. And you could have a faction of Skrulls that after the whole thing with the Kree, after they were being hunted down, that kind of broke off, became those radical extremist Skrulls, and that's where this comes from.
That is exactly what I think is going to happen. Is basically that they're, we have Talos and we have the allies Skrulls, or the nice Skrulls, the one that Captain Marvel helped, who essentially owe Captain Marvel for saving their green butts. So now they aren't going to come back and probably bite us. But what I do think is maybe, it's been 20 something years that they've been off world and doing their thing, and then we also have them in that ship that's just above the planet, that's orbiting the planet. So we have Skrulls in multiple places, and they've been able to kind of rebuild their numbers. They've had time to regroup and rebuild, and they won't. I think they'll have a faction break off and then end up coming over here, on some fundamental extremist stuff, and then we'll end up dealing with the worst of that.
Or is it almost like a Kree Civil War type thing? The good ones that we know of were versus these extremists that are coming, behind that broke off. Go ahead, Alex. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, you could always have them kind of doing that double dealing thing where they're kind of playing both sides, and, they were kind of playing mankind in the beginning just to get them to this point to eventually try and take over. But also, like, the other thing, too, is like when you talked about Young Avengers, you got Hulkling, and Hulkling's like part Skrull. Yep. And like he even says exactly what you guys talked about in Secret Invasion, where he talks about like these actions are like the actions of extremists, these are the actions of terrorists, these are not like how the Skrulls act. And he seems like awfully surprised, even though he's like not familiar with the culture of the Skrulls. But like I think that since we haven't even seen that character, I think that's kind of interesting. We haven't even seen, say, Hulkling in the MCU.
Maybe we'll see him with this. Maybe he'll get introduced. I'm sure they're going to have to probably introduce Hulkling, Abigail Brand. I'm trying to think who else they're going to introduce as well.
There's so many cameo
yeah.
possibilities in this because, I mean, like, let's say the planet that they took the Skrulls to was eaten by, say, Galactus.
Yep.
And then, maybe they say, or they might say it was devoured and then just leave it at that as like a hint. I could see them as doing that as like a mild hint or nod towards Galactus without fully revealing him. And then they're desperate and now coming back to Earth again to try to take over again. Via replacing, some of our superheroes. But I wanted to ask you guys, who do you think of how the MCU exists currently, right? And who's currently active and whatnot and alive? Who do you guys think is the most likely to have been replaced by a Skrull at this point? Because someone has been replaced. I think we need to basically accept that, right?
Yeah.
Val probably is the biggest one. I don't think they'll make any other people Skrulls, any big names yet. No. I could see Val. I could see even Maria Hill in the real Maria Hill being undercover in a bunker somewhere, kind of taking that Fury role.
Yeah, I can see Monica Rambeau.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could see a lot of the sort of
or actually, no, Maria, the mother.
Yeah, Maria Rambeau. Yeah, I could see some of the supporting cast like Happy, or Pepper. Or
yes.
Someone like that. Some one of the supporting cast. I can see that happening.
I think you make a good point with Pepper because in both the comics and in the cartoons, they had to take down the smart people, right? They had to go get into Stark Industries. That virus had to take over. They had to really get rid of Mr. Fantastic and Tony Stark for them to win. And once those two got back on their feet and back into it, that's how they overcame them. So I think Pepper is a good one, or someone within Stark Industries that's high up.
Happy.
But, Happy, like you said.
Yeah.
But I wonder who is going to play the Stark and Reed role in this one, because who's going to be the smartest person right now? Is it going to be Banner? Is it going to be Hank Pym? Is it going to be Scott Lang? Is it going to be Shuri? Is it going to be Riri? Where is this going? Who's going to fill that void of Reed Richards and Tony Stark?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that it's go on, Alex. Go on.
Oh, I was just gonna say, do we think that like post snap that could also play into this? Like maybe the Skrulls after the snap, after people were gone, assumed people's lives and took up people that were snapped, so they became those people. They kind of like fell in. Great. So then when like after everybody comes back, now these people have had their entire lives lived by somebody else for the last 5 years, and then this causes a whole new problem. And I mean, it's just something else I've kind of thrown.
That's a good thought.
Yeah, I really
can
like
see them
that.
playing that route.
Yeah, because I'm kind of waiting for that sort of big reveal moment. So in the comics, there's that big reveal moment, isn't there, where the Kree ship crashes on Earth, and they open it up. It's Luke Cage that opens it up, isn't it? He opens it up.
Yep, he rips the door off.
He rips the door off, and inside is another bunch of heroes. Some of them are from a long time ago. Some of them are more modern. Some of them were dead. Some of them aren't dead, and they're just doubles. And some of them have been missing for ages. So you've got this kind of and that standoff moment is probably one of the. I tell you what, that is one of the best standoff moments in comics in my eyes. Like you can almost hear the music and like the tension as you're reading the lines, and this like the music's building up, and then they have that kind of rushing towards each other. I mean, they tried to replicate that in Civil War.
It was similar to that.
Yeah, at the airport, they kind of tried to build that up, and then they sort of rush towards each other and smash into each other, and that's the kind of impression that I got. But my point being is that, going on what Alex was just saying, that I'd like to know if there will be a big reveal moment like that in the MCU, where they go, oh, look, all of these people have actually existed. So has somebody kind of rounded up all of these people who have now returned, who they thought were already, who were never snapped, and they're obviously Skrulls, and they're like, well, hold on, who are the Skrulls and who are not the Skrulls? Because you people already exist. So if you turning up and pretending to be a Skrull and saying that they're a Skrull, and do you know what I mean? I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting too, because how they round those up, because in the comics and the cartoons, they didn't really kill a lot of the people. They round them up because they need their DNA and that kind of stuff. Because remember too, because Clint got fooled in both the comics and the cartoons by Bobby, because she knew things that that
That
that no one else
only
would have known.
only the real Bobby should
Yeah.
have known.
And she
Yeah.
was a Skrull, and she ended up being a
Yeah.
Skrull and pulling the fast one on them. So they're gonna have to be them, another cloaked ship in orbit, off world,
Yeah.
another base, and then also too, does anything, and this might be a long shot, does anything after the events of Eternals play into anything of this as well?
Mm.
Yeah,
So
I mean, they mentioned that Eternals as a concept and deviants were not unique to the planet Earth,
Exactly.
and these Skrulls are actually descendants of deviants on their planet.
Yep.
So whereas the Eternals are more closely related to humans and humans closely related to Eternals on Earth in the comics as well, the Skrulls are actually descendant of their deviant race, which might also explain some personality traits of the Skrulls in general.
Yep,
like,
and just the evolution that we saw with the deviants also with Crow as well.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm going. It's like, how does Eternals tie into this? Because there is some storylines there that connect.
Yeah, it's definitely has that tie-in like built into it. Be interesting to see.
There was a number of teams that turned up in the Secret Invasion.
I love that. I love that.
We've kind of already, Jaren's banged out some names, but the Thunderbolts were there.
Yep.
Which, by the way, when Marvel turns, well, it's not Marvel, is it? We know that.
Novar, yeah.
Yep. But both are in it.
No. It's not Marvel, is he? He's a Skrull, but he doesn't know that. But Marvel turns up, and Norman Osborn kind of questions him, doesn't he? And he says to the Skrull, "Do you even know who you're supposed to be?" That's a beautiful moment.
That's one of my favorite parts, and I have it actually written down at the top. I'm so glad you brought that up, because that scene is just really gives you a window into Norman Osborn, what a genius he is, because he breaks this man down. Like Norman has no powers at all whatsoever, and he just breaks this man who clearly could just blow down the whole building in 2 seconds if he wanted to, and he breaks this man down like. He's like, wait, you didn't even know that you were a sleeper agent. You didn't even know you were a Skrull. And then immediately goes into action, because then he gets rid of that guy by talking him into confusing himself. Guy flies away in a crazy rage. And then he immediately goes into, all right, give me that gun. You do this. This, we need to go into lockdown. Anyone acts weird, you shoot him immediately. And
ask questions later. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just such a great mode. I just really hope that whoever they bring in to fill that Norman Osborn role in the MCU can do it that same justice, because that part was beautiful.
It's a shame that No Way Home confirmed no Norman Osborn in this universe.
Yeah.
So, but there is a Harry though, supposedly,
and not yet anyway.
Yeah.
Not yet, not that we know of. But anyway, my point, I've diverged a little bit there. Point is, we had the Thunderbolts, we had Nick Fury's Secret Avengers. No. Wait a minute. Yeah, they were. That was
Secret
what
Warriors.
The Secret Warriors. Thank you.
Yeah.
Secret
The
Warriors.
Commandos.
Yes.
Yeah, Commandos.
The Young Avengers turned up.
Yep.
The Hand had the Hood.
The Hood, Crime Syndicate.
The Hood.
Yep.
Yeah, the Hood. He had people turn up, and then you obviously had both factions of the Defenders, the Avengers.
Of the Avengers, yeah.
Turning up as
the
well.
underground Luke Cage Avengers, and then the heavy hitters.
But I was saying, you also had in that comic, you had the baby between Luke Cage and Jessica Jones also.
That was
you
awesome.
had Jarvis as a Skrull.
That was such a heart-wrenching part there.
Yep.
At the end.
Baby. At the
At
end.
the end.
We'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah.
Did we mention Echo too? She's in that.
She's in it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Was in it? Yeah.
Yeah. But I my point being, I think with all the teams was that there is a 6-part. I think it's going to be 6 parts, isn't it? The Disney Plus show.
Yeah.
Usually they are.
Yeah. Can a 6-part show? Let's say that they did want to show all those teams. Can a 6-part show enough of any of those teams to make it worth bringing them all in?
Not with 30-minute episodes.
Yeah, and that's why I think this won't be resolved in the series. This is probably a build-up to something coming more in the phase.
Yeah,
because we still
I think it's a Thunderbolts build-up.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I can see that, because think about the characters that we have coming. Because we know Fantastic Four is coming. We know Captain Marvel 2 is coming. The Marvels are coming. Miss Marvel's coming, but she's not in here though. Miss Marvel, Danvers is in Secret Invasion, but she's Captain Marvel in the MCU. There's been talk of we have Young Avengers being set up in the MCU. There's been talk of Secret Warriors, and then the street level people besides Iron Fist and Luke Cage, we know they're coming. So I wonder if this is laying the groundwork of Secret Invasion, to be one of the storylines further in the Phase 4.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking it's going to be more than just this, just this show. But yeah, I think there's a lot going on in there, isn't there? Really, in Secret Invasion. But one of the themes I really liked about the whole thing, and I think it really fits with where we're at the moment in the MCU. And me and Alex were kind of talking about this the other day. Was this whole idea of identity? And you know, the whole question in Secret Invasion is, you know, who can you trust? Who are you?
Who?
Yeah, who's this person? We was literally just talking a moment ago about Norman Osborn saying to the Skrull who was, you know, being Marvel, like, you don't even know who you are. Like, you don't even know who you're supposed to be. Like, you know, you're supposed to be Marvel. You know, this is like you know, the man. But the whole thing with Tony Stark. So if anybody's listening that hasn't read the comic, there's a piece in there with Tony Stark where Queen Varenke, who's, it's not ruining anything, she's Spider-Woman, she's trying to convince Tony Stark that he's a deep lying, you know, sleeper agent that's been there for years.
Yeah.
And he's back and forward in,
because he's sick at the same time too.
Yeah.
He's battling. They made a custom-made virus that not only attacks his body but also his tech at the same time. Like, brilliant.
So he starts asking himself this question, like, who am I? Like, am I a Skrull? Have I always been a Skrull? Have I messed this up? Because he was the one that put a lot of people in place, obviously taking over as the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. after Civil War, and you know, he kind of questioned his own person, didn't he? He questioned his own identity because he didn't even know who he was. So I think that, and like I said, me and Alex were saying the other day, it was on one of Tim's posts. He said, you'd use one word to describe this phase of the MCU so far? And as much as I wanted to try and find a better way of describing the same thing, I used the word identity, because I just think everything that we've had so far is these characters trying to figure out who they are, you know, after a certain trauma, or who they are just in general. You know, obviously Wanda, who is Wanda going to be when she hasn't got the vision, when she hasn't got this life that she's built up for herself? Who is Loki? You know, is he really good? Is he bad? You know, is he
really self-interested? Is he really all these things that he's been portrayed as?
That's right. Falcon and Winter Soldier, that, you know, who are they? Who are Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes without Steve Rogers? Who are those people? You know, all of the shows, you know, Hawkeye, is he a hero? He didn't think he was. He was just a normal guy. Kate thought he was a hero.
I mean, even with What If is kind of like an identity theme too, because it's like how we identify with these characters that we've known to have set stories for so long, that certain things, one event changes and it completely changes almost the entire character's identity at times, you know?
Exactly. Who do they then become because of the decisions that they've made? I don't know if any of you, did you ever read those books when you was a kid? And you read the book, and when you get to the end of a paragraph, you have to make a decision and then go to a different page.
Choose your own adventure. Your own adventure.
What if is a little bit like that. It's like, you choose this path, but what if you chose that path? That's a what if, isn't it?
Yeah.
But my point being, I think, is that the whole of Secret Invasion is about identity. It's literally about shape-shifting people who steal your identity, and I think it fits in really well with what's happening at the moment in the MCU about, you know, this identity thing that's going on, and everybody trying to figure out who they are and where they fit in, especially in this world seemingly without Avengers, or at least, as we know, without Black Widow, without Tony Stark, without Steve Rogers, or at least without Steve Rogers as a young man, at least. Right. So who are they now? Who are the Avengers? Who are the Avengers going to be? Is it going to be young Avengers? Is it going to be Thunderbolts? Is it going to be Secret Warriors? Is it going to be, you know, the street level guys?
All the above.
Yeah.
All the above, I say.
And it's also too, do you think we'll see anyone like J. Jonah Jameson from his online thing about how he was in No Way Home? Because if you think about it from the comics, there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of stuff out there. Because think about how in the comics, the people were actually embracing the Skrulls, and towards towards the
Yeah.
halfway point,
Yeah.
towards the end, they were against all the heroes. They
Yeah.
were trying to embrace the Skrulls. They were,
I love
calling
that
the heroes
commercial
fake.
that they did
Yeah.
in the middle of it. It was just absolutely brilliant. It's like,
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
they showed all the different people that were Skrulls, and they were all
Yeah.
kind of, wasn't like Eric Cartman one of those as well, like South Park.
it was Obama, Oprah,
Yeah.
Stephen Colbert.
I think
Ellen
Steve
DeGeneres.
Jobs.
I've literally got it in front of me. I'm going to find
Oh,
out.
yeah.
a lot
Carry on
of prominent
talking.
people. And then if you look in the cartoons, it was Captain America as a Skrull getting on TV
Right.
and doing all that kind of stuff. So misinformation was a big piece of Secret Invasion. Who's going to play that point of it? Are they going to bring Jonah Jameson back for this? Are they going to have someone else new? There was that one news guy who's been through like every Marvel movie.
Yeah.
That he pops up for a cameo. Is he going to be that person? Interesting is to see how they tie that misinformation age in, and if they tie that to anything that we've seen recently in the real world with our misinformation as well.
Right, here we go. I found it. You have to tell. I don't know who they all are. That's got to be. There's got to be. Is that?
That's
what's her
Oprah.
face?
Oprah, yeah.
Who else we got? See if you can see. Obviously, there's Doom.
Yeah.
It's
that-
Steve Jobs above Oprah, I think.
Is that John McCain in the bottom left?
John
Yeah, that's
McCain,
John
yeah.
McCain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is all backwards. Let's see who else you got.
And then you also have Obama on there. You had Steve
Obama's
Colbert, you
there, yeah.
said. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, Tom. Is that Tom Cruise down there? Is that supposed to be Tom Cruise? Just
Yeah,
Yeah,
Probably.
that
Tom
looks,
Cruise,
looks
yeah.
like him. Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks like him. They
It's
got
supposed
Reed
to be Cruise.
Richards.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which it's so weird that Stephen Colbert is running for president in that. It's got like the Colbert 08
Yeah.
Yeah.
thing.
Look, just if you can see, you see just there?
Yeah.
See who that is? That's supposed to be Eric Cartman, just behind this
Oh,
person.
wow.
That's funny.
That's a great play. That's a great play, man.
So two things here. So if they wrap everything up over 6 episodes, I think it's going to be more along the cartoon, but without all the big heavy hitters. It's going to be more lower level hitters in the cartoon than the cartoon. If
Yeah.
it goes from the movie, from the series to more Phase 4 into a movie, I think we'll see the heavy hitters brought in later. So it'll be interesting how they do this, and if it wraps up in the series, or if it spills into more Phase 4 and even into Phase 5.
I think it plays out like Winter Soldier, like Captain America Winter Soldier, just that very kind of understated story. I don't think you're going to have a ton of like big battles or any grandstanding action like that. I think maybe at the end you might have one, but for the most part, it's going to be a lot of like kind of more like a spy thriller kind of thing.
Yeah, okay.
Falcon and Winter Soldier,
Black
or
Widow.
the Winter Soldier or Captain America Winter Soldier movie, kind of
Yeah.
going in a different route.
Yeah, I have this like strange feeling that you're gonna have the Skrulls like doing things like framing people, getting them out of the way, using
Yeah.
like tactics to remove people from positions or get people out of the way that will cause them issues with their eventual takeover.
Yep, they're crafty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is going to certainly be more espionage thriller type stuff than it is going to be, big explosions and fights with 100 people. But I do think now the more we've been talking, I think that we could end up getting more than just this one series.
Yep. That's what I think. I think it's going to spill over to Phase 4 and probably into Phase 5.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, could this run for a lot longer than we think? Is this just the beginning of the Secret Invasion? Is this just Fury finding out, for example, and all of these, like what Alex was just saying, all of these underhand tactics, all of these sort of behind the scenes, sort of secret things that they're doing, to start it off. And are we going to get the big the explosions and the fights with everybody, at a later date?
So we've seen with Spider-Man how Marvel likes to do, Far From Home, No Way Home, Homecoming. So we have Secret Invasion, and we know already that they want to eventually get to Secret Wars.
Yep.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they merge some elements that allow this to lead into an eventual Secret Wars pathway, or a pathway that leads us to Secret Wars.
Because actually that's a good point, Monty, because if you think about it, because Secret Wars, that's multiverse, where some of these big hitters that we haven't seen yet, or that are in the gone, they could come back to the multiverse and have this big war of Secret Invasion multiverse in one film.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, potentially.
That's good thought, Monty.
I think that
Thank you.
yeah, I think it needs it needs a bit of both. I think it needs that spy espionage piece, because it's got, the cast has got that feel to it, hasn't it? If you look at the cast, Olivia Colman, Mendelsohn, what's the other guy?
Adir is in there. I can't remember his full name, but he's supposed to be one of the villains, I think.
Right, yeah. And obviously Fury and Emilia Clarke.
Yep.
I think it lends itself to that kind of, not that the other stuff isn't serious, and that's not what I mean at all. I mean, I love it, but I think it does lend itself to more sort of what's the word that I'm looking for? I don't want to use the word serious, because that's not the right word, but just more tactical.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? A little bit more tactical, and then I think when it develops, we then get that kind of, the popcorn,
Yeah.
I think it'll be more of like a chess game,
Yeah, that's
like,
there you go.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alex.
yeah, and
Well
what's really
said.
funny is I've been sitting here and I've been thinking about it. Wouldn't it be interesting if Val turned out to be like the queen?
Yep.
Yeah, that's totally within her own possibility. As far as I could see her putting together this Thunderbolts team, them not knowing that they're agents working on behalf of the Skrulls, even though they're human, superpowered humans, and then we have to have our heroes step in, and then it becomes a battle between their Thunderbolts versus the what's left of the Avengers and
But
the new
then-
heroes on the scene. They might go that route too, or take it to that direction.
The
And
other
you know-
thought too. Go ahead, Alex.
I was just gonna say, and with that too, you could always have that moment where they all fight each other, and then they kind of come to blows, and then they take a step back, and you have people like John Walker, like, "Oh, what have I been doing? I've been a soldier
Right.
for all the wrong reasons," and then they all come together and fight the Skrulls.
Fight the Skrulls,
You know,
yeah.
So the other thought too, if she's not the queen, what if she's the Norman Osborn role in this event? Because
Yeah.
she does. You mentioned Thunderbolts. She does seem like she's putting the Thunderbolts together.
She'd
And
be
you
great
can still
at it.
have, you can still have that fight where they're all fighting each other, and they say, "Wait a minute, we're fighting the wrong people. Let's drop our differences like in the comic books and let's fight them."
And she's believable. She's believable as that role for sure.
Yeah,
she's got that manipulative, that very kind of underhanded way about her.
Speaking of who else could be a Skrull too, Carter, Agent Carter. She's the prime candidate to be a Skrull.
Yes, exactly. Especially with her being the power broker.
Yep.
What
and the way she
better
acted in the
way?
series. Yep.
Right. What better way for her to actually be a Skrull and get her hands into her claws into the underbelly of Earth by getting in Madripoor and becoming the power broker.
And then she got back into the government. Yep.
Yeah. Good point.
Just sitting there thinking, and you've almost sort of said what I was going to say there as well. But do you reckon we could end up getting a little bit of Val being the Norman Osborn role? I think we really need to get that. We need to get a hero at the end of it who's not a hero, and then put into a position that makes them a hit. Yeah, exactly. I really think we need to get that. We've got to go down this sort of Dark Reign, route.
That path, absolutely. It's easy. It's low-hanging fruit for them to go because that's such an excellent, well-loved story, and with a little bit of tweaks, they can make it, mainstream like they do with the rest of the Marvel stories, and it will definitely be a hit. People will definitely love it.
And Norman has that moment at the end of Secret Invasion where even as the new director of S.H.I.E.L.D. or whatever, he still gets together with Emma Frost, with like Namor, with like
with
all those
Hood.
people. Yeah, and he pulls them all around the table and he's like, "Oh, thank you for meeting." So you could have
this
Val,
is how it's going to be. Yeah, I'm the boss now.
You could have Val do that very same thing where, like, say at the end of, this, like, she steps in with the Thunderbolts and saves the day at the very last second.
Yeah,
that's and boom, gets stardom.
And then right. So then talk about a twist. What about a double twist, if that's even a thing? But you find out that Val is actually a Skrull as well. So she hasn't acted like a Skrull, but she's done that. Almost like it's not a double cross, is it? It's got a
like a double agent.
Double agent.
Double agent. Yeah. She's a double agent. So she is a Skrull working for the Skrulls, but then she acts like she's a human working for humans, but then actually ends up being a Skrull. Do you know what I mean? And that's how it could carry on further than just this one series. She then gets the Thunderbolts in power. as you know, rather than the Avengers, because they say, oh, we don't know, we can't trust the Avengers because we don't know that, you know, Hawkeye's wife isn't a Skrull, so how can we trust Hawkeye?
Yeah.
But Val gets her own team in power, and then it carries on after that, and she turns out she is actually a Skrull. Maybe we find out right at the end after she's had that conversation with whoever, Namor, Doom, maybe by then, who knows, and all these other guys, and then we find out that she is actually a Skrull and she's still playing the game.
So I wanted to kind of just ask what everyone's like moment or favorite part of Secret Invasion was, or just one scene that really like stuck out to you. Because I think there's just a lot of good scenes, and I really want to share this with the people listening, you know, maybe who haven't read it yet, or you know, or if they're going to read it or whatnot. You know, these are some kind of scenes and that really exemplify what a great read this is.
I got one.
Yeah,
I'll go with the Avengers Assemble moment in that series where there was that massive battle, and you just have everyone's differences were dropped. You had villains, you had heroes, you had anti-villains, all just coming together. And then you had Janet Van Dyne just going huge, which they had a failsafe for her. And then that entire battle. Yep, right there.
Yeah.
And then Janet dies, and then you see them win the battle. And then you just see when Hank's asking about Janet and the way they're kind of recruited to the battle, that whole ending fight of that was the best part for me.
Yeah.
I always like. Sorry, just before you say that, I always like the moments just before the assemble.
Yeah.
Like, again, if anybody's watching, I'm just going to hold that up. But that's it there. That moment there. Look at that image there with Cap, Iron Man, Thor, and Nick Fury. And that is just brilliant. Like the moment just before the word assemble comes out is just because you know what's happening. Like, they always do it like that as well, where it's on this page and then the next page is where that assemble.
Yeah, because that moment was big. I mean, they just for those who don't know, there's a part where they have Janet Van Dyne is kind of a double sleeper, agent, and she's actually a bomb that the Skrull Hank Pym gave her a doctored dose of the giant formula, and then she essentially becomes a bomb that is used as a, like you said, a failsafe to take out, all. And then so her dying is the impetus for everyone to be like, and they even talk about it. They're like, she's a founding Avenger.
Yep.
Everyone on Earth is now ticked off. Everyone's real pissed, and you're gonna get it. And then that's exactly what's kind of being explained right before that scene that you showed, Andy, and I appreciate that scene so much.
Yeah, and they kind of missed that in the cartoon because you didn't get that moment in the cartoon, but they swapped that out for Captain America being the kind of the fall person, because they had the fake Captain America turn everybody to the Skrull side, and so they kind of replaced it there. But the one parallel between the cartoon and the comic was they were scared shitless of Thor in both the cartoon and the comic book. Thor shows up, they're like, "Oh shit, we're done."
Yep.
Well, he has one of the best moments in the comic because, like, out of nowhere, like this big bolt of lightning comes down, and everybody's like, "Oh no, there he is!"
Yeah.
Like they're all terrified.
You're not gonna like lightning.
Yeah. So that I love that part because he strikes the ground. Spider-Man comes out and he's like, "Thor, what are you doing?" He goes, "Summoning the battle." And that's it. And it's just like that's all you need to say because that's all you needed to do.
Where is he before this? I don't know where he is.
I know in the cartoon they had him captured, they had him asleep because they knew he was one of the biggest threats outside of Hank Pym and Reed Richards and Tony Stark. So they kind of had him like in a stasis in the cartoons. I think in the comics he kind of just came out of nowhere.
I don't remember it.
Turned up to this.
Yeah, I don't remember it exactly, but I do know that him and Tony, aside from Civil War, had another falling out.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I forgot exactly what that was related to, but they had a big falling out, and then Thor was off world, out of the way, not doing his thing and trying to avoid Tony at all points. And then he found out what was happening on Earth, and he came back to be the defender of Midgard.
They didn't finish their falling out either, because they were, even when it was done, they still had the falling, that they
Yeah,
started
he,
their
he walked
issues.
off, didn't he?
Yep,
He
yep.
walked
Yes.
off because he was pissed that Tony made the clone of him, wasn't he? Or the Ragnarok, not the clone of him, but in Civil War he made that kind of
Yeah, he
robot
made that.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
yes.
clone
yes.
thing. But he was pissed about that, wasn't he? But there
With
was,
his
yes, he
DNA,
was-
without his permission. Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. But you're saying there was something before that. See, I can't remember what it was.
I think there was. I thought
Alex,
there was
I-
one
Alex
other
might know.
thing.
I think there's like this moment, and if I remember correctly, where like Thor and Iron Man are like standing out, and Tony's like, "You're gonna do as I say," and Thor's like, "You dare tell a god like what he can and can't do?"
Yes, I think that's
and
it.
Tony's like, "I'm director of S.H.I.E.L.D. now. You play by my rules. Like, you'll follow what I say," kind of type thing. And Thor and him get into it, and Thor, like, beats the tar out of Tony, messes him up pretty bad. And then, like, Tony in kind of like a mess on the ground. I think he's, like, laying on the ground or something. And
I remember that.
Thor, like, gets mad and just is like, "You're not even worth it at this point. Bye," and takes off and
Yes,
leaves Tony
yes.
in a mess on the ground or whatever, something like that.
That's ringing bells now that you said
Right.
that about him being
Yeah.
on the ground and
I
Thor
knew it was
flying off.
something else.
Yeah.
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 That was such a great
So-
moment. I wanted to kind of just throw in that the moment with Maria Hill, where Maria Hill's standing on the ship. She's talking to Jarvis. She's got all her, who she thinks is her shield soldiers behind her with guns drawn, pointing at Jarvis, who we know is a Skrull at this point. And then all of a sudden, Jarvis totally turns the tables on her, and it's like, actually, and then all the guys behind her turn into Skrulls,
Yeah.
and then they point their guns at her, and then she starts talking crap, and then she turns the tables on them again because she goes, "Oh yeah, so Nick Fury, I'm definitely gonna get a shirt made up." And they were like, "What? What are you talking about?" They're like, "Oh, you're just babbling, blah blah blah." You're like, "No, listen to me. She's like, because he told me about these things called life model decoys
Yep.
that you can put in your place to do what you need to do. And then she that she totally is just like, starts explaining about life model decoys, and she's gonna get a shirt that says Nick Fury was right. And then they're like, "Oh, just kill her," and they kill her, and then as you could expect, she's a life model decoy.
Yep.
But now the camera or the panel moves to her up on a perch with a bazooka pointed at all of them,
Yeah.
turning the tables a fourth time, and then just proceeds to try to obliterate them.
That's great, and that just goes to show how clever Maria Hill is.
Yeah.
Just
they,
never
they
get
had some
caught in the
parallels
wrong
in
place.
the cartoons also of that. Not
Yeah.
the same, not as much as the comic book, but similar.
Nice.
Right.
I've probably got two. I've got two. I mean, other than the ones that we've already spoken about, by the way.
Mhm.
And we have already spoken about both of these in a way, but certainly the when the Skrull Marvel turns up at Thunderbolt's Mountain and Norman Osborn just talks him down. And that's just it's such a great moment because Marvel's one of those characters that's like he's and I know he hasn't quite stayed dead, but he pretty much has stayed dead, hasn't he, in the comics? Like he has come back in from from hell and from Soul World and all different things in the past, but he is still pretty much dead. Like when you look at how other characters have died, I mean, talking about Janet Van Dyne, she's not actually dead at the end of this anyway, is she?
Right.
She kind of is, and then she comes back somehow, and she's caught in a microverse. And
Right.
but Marvel he died of cancer, and that's pretty much it. He's been dead since then, and that was in the 80s or something like that, wasn't it?
Yep.
So-
he's like
so-
the Gwen Stacy type, the ones that they let be dead,
Yeah,
for a long time.
Yeah, and everyone had such respect for him as well, for Marvel, and I just really like that moment when even Norman Osborn had the respect for Marvel, because even he knew who he was, and that's why he was saying to this Skrull, like, you don't even know who you're supposed to be, like you're the man, you are,
Right.
Marvel. I really like that. I thought that was really good. I thought it was a nice way
Absolutely.
of honouring Marvel as well. But I also liked, we've kind of spoken about the bit with Jessica Jones and when she, the baby, when she realises that she's left the baby with Jarvis. But for me, it was the bit when she leaves, because we already knew.
Yeah.
And she leaves, and you're like, no, don't leave. Like, leave
Yeah.
the Skrull. Like, don't leave the baby. She's like, yeah, I can trust you. And you're like, no, you can't. Don't leave.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that bit. That was
That was a great scene because she's like looking on TV at all all the heroes coming in fighting in the park. And and one thing that doesn't get talked about a lot is Jessica Jones' power set. She's really strong. Like she's super strong. She flies. She's super durable. Like she's a beast. Like she's a difference maker on a battlefield. It's not like maybe someone like maybe Daredevil. Like he's important like as far as a fighter, but he's not going to turn the tide of like a cosmic level battle
until you get to War of the Realms.
Right.
And he holds Heimdall's sword, which was awesome. I've literally just read War of the Realms this week. That's why I just said that.
That was a good one. Yeah,
that was good. But no, I agree with what you're saying. Yeah, and I tell you what else is interesting about Jessica Jones and obviously Luke Cage and that dynamic is they're on different sides of the Registration Act, aren't they? Because Jessica Jones registers because of the safety of the baby and Luke Cage doesn't.
Luke's against it. Yeah,
but they're not. They almost like didn't have the ump with each other. They just kind of did what they had to do. They kind of respected the decision, didn't they? And that was really cool. I thought that was really interesting.
So I really love that scene in the Savage Land where Luke Cage is talking to Wolverine, and he's like, he pulls out his claws, and he goes, "What are you going to do with those?" And he's like, "I'm going to try and cut you with them or something." He's like, "I have unbreakable skin, right?" And he's like, "Well, I have unbreakable claws." And then they have this moment where they just kind of like stare at one another, and they're just kind of like, okay. I love that little moment right there.
Yeah. But, also, speaking of Wolverine, the moment where Natasha Romanoff, who's involved in this, is like, I know how to tell who's a Skrull and who's not. And she's like, I'm just going to shoot anyone that walks in. And then Wolverine walks in, she shoots the hell out of Wolverine. Wolverine's like, what the hell, man? And then, and then it's because he heals. So obviously he's like, if it's a real Wolverine, he'll get over it. If it's not, I win.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, she's shoot first, ask questions later.
Love that part. So funny.
There's. I mean, I like the bit at the bit. So at the very beginning, when Hank shoots, well, not Hank. It's not Hank, is it? But when he shoots Reed, and Reed just splats. Yeah. That's great as well. Because
how they have him like trapped like that the whole time until he escapes, or until Abigail sets him free. I think.
Right.
Yeah.
She does. Yeah.
Shout out to her for not having powers and being able to make that. She's like floating, and she goes from floating in space. It's like she's really the unsung hero of this whole. Because without Reed, they don't get Reed's tech, which turns the tide of the battle. Excuse me. And it's super crazy that she gets blown up inside of a sword flying installation. She floats to another ship, impersonates Skrulls, beats them all up, shoots up another room of them, tells the whole place to abandon ship, and then takes over the ship with Reed Richards. And she has no powers except for being able to speak languages.
Which I'll be surprised if Emilia Clarke is not Abigail Brand, because that's a pretty significant role.
That's what I was saying. I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you're right. Now that I think about it, I think she can do that or Varankia, but those are the only two options in my view of what she could be.
I've seen the I don't know whether it's fan art or whether it was actually her with dyed green hair. I'm not sure, but I've seen the image on the internet of Emilia Clarke with green hair, and you're just like, she's got to be Abigail Brand. She looks it almost like it's perfect. It's perfect, and I can see her there with the glasses, and she's Abigail Brand for me, and I think she'll play a bigger part going forward as well.
Yeah.
Again, as I kept banging on about when we done our Eternals episodes last year, that you don't get, and this is not just a Game of Thrones thing, but you don't get Kit Harington in to play Dane Whitman here for 10 minutes.
No, not at all. He's going to be a fixture. I think him and I think Matt Murdock, I think you're about to see them cameoing in a lot of different things, just randomly, and then eventually they'll get their own maybe solo entries or whatever, or co-entries into it. But I think you're going to see a lot more of them.
For sure. Well, I think we've had a good chat about Secret Invasion there, guys.
One last thing. Did anybody catch the fact that there was a Skrull in a tracksuit in Loki when they were first getting to the TVA? I think that's not by accident.
Nice.
Tracksuit Mafia.
Yeah, he's trust the Skrull.
Trust the Skrull.
Don't trust the Skrull. Well, look, listen. Monty, thank you for coming back on.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate
Anytime.
that.
I love
No,
it. Love it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jaren. Thank you, Alex. And yeah, we've had another good chat. And yeah, next week we'll come up with another great episode for you. So thanks for listening, guys. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
Later.
Why don't you tell them about the time we faced